Good afternoon. I forgot to mention to you guys that I was going to be out of class this afternoon as well. Math and science lead teachers have some extra training that they need to do, and so I wanted to be sure we were still keeping you on the right track and continuing with information. So we left off, we were talking about the life cycle of a typical cnidarian, but now we're going to get into the specific classes. So we're going to focus on hydrozoans, scyphozoans, and anthozoans. And so for today, our focus is just with class Hydrozoa. So the most common example in class Hydrozoa is the hydra. But I'm going to show you a few other examples as well. So as we move forward, just make sure if you have questions on anything that you just shoot me a message through Schoology. I finally got my notifications fixed on Schoology, so I am able to see those messages now. So when we're looking at class Hydrozoa, they are unique because if you remember last week, we talked about the two different life cycle phases of a typical cnidarian. So they have the polyp phase, which we said would be like your elbow to your arm, and then the fingers would be the tentacles, and the mouth would be here. So it'd be kind of more like this, okay? Whereas if we're talking about the medusa, we're going to take that body plan and we're going to flip it down. So now the tentacles are hanging down, and they can move about that way, okay? More of a pulsing motion. So class Hydrozoa is unique of all the three classes of cnidarians because they spend their entire life as a polyp stage in the adult form. Some of them do have a short medusa stage, the hydra does not. And so for the most part, these polyps are going to grow into colonies. When you look here, this is called a colony of Sarsia. So that's an example of a cnidarian that is living together in that colony. Most of these are going to stay in the polyp stage, and they would be sessile in the adult form. So some of them can only be a few centimeters in length. If you're thinking about a centimeter, it's pretty much the width of your pinky finger there. And so we can see they're very small. Some of those colonies can then be more than a meter in diameter. And so with these colonies, it's really efficient because they have a direct division of labor. They're dividing up the work among those polyps. So some of the polyps might be responsible for getting food, others might be responsible for reproducing, others might be responsible for defending the colony. So not one single polyp has to do everything. It's kind of like if you have a job and you go to work and you're expected to do 5 different things. You're not going to be able to operate efficiently. So instead, if you're working, let's say at a fast food place, you have the cashier, you have the people that make the food, you have the people that are, taking the food to the drive-through window. So there's all kinds of different jobs there, and that makes it run efficiently. So imagine a colony working the same way. Okay, it's definitely that division of labor. The most common and the one that we're looking at in the lab tomorrow, really excited about the lab. The hydras are still alive, which is good. But hydras are freshwater animals, and they are extremely small. So all the work that we're going to be doing with the hydras is going to be done through the microscope. This is the first time where we're using the term hermaphrodite. I did mention it just briefly when we were talking about the sponges. But in the hydras specifically, most of the time the sexes are separate. But there are a few of them that contain both male and female reproductive structures. And so that would mean that for their survival, that one single hydra has the ability to produce eggs and sperm. And so because those are reproduced internally, those can be released into the water, and it would still be considered sexual reproduction. With asexual reproduction, it would be like budding, just like we talked about for the sponges. And I have a few other video clips that I'm going to show you once we get done with this section of notes here. Another example of a hydrozoan that is a little bit more unique is the Portuguese Man of War. So this obviously originates in or around Portugal, and these actually look more like a jellyfish than anything else because they do have the long tentacles, they have that medusa shape at the top, but these are actually hundreds of different polyps that are living together. And so again, I can't stress enough, that division of labor is so important for their survival. So it's the job of one of the polyps to form that floating sac, and then it's the job of another polyp to form the tentacles. So some of them are going to defend, some of them are going to reproduce, some of them are going to capture food, and so each different polyp has a specific function for that particular colony. This is a typical hydra here. This one is actually in the process of budding. So I'm actually hoping when we get some out and look at them under the microscope that we might actually see some of that asexual reproduction occurring, okay? So the base of this here is what we call a basal disc. You can see that on your diagram I gave you last week. And then we of course see the tentacles. So the mouth is here. The nematocysts, the stinging structures, remember, are on the very tips. So that allows them to use those like projectiles, releasing that venom or toxin, and then grabbing onto the prey and then pulling it into the mouth. This is a Portuguese man of war here. So to most people, if this washed up on shore, they would probably call it a jellyfish. But this is actually multiple animals, multiple polyps that are living together, which is why they are classified as hydrozoans and not classified with the jellyfish in Scyphozoa. So I want to show you a few video clips. And when we're looking at those video clips, I'm going to actually link them separately in Schoology. So there's no easy way for me to like transition seamlessly into the videos without you watching all of my work on my computer. And so rather than have you sit and watch me fumble through all those different tabs, make sure you click the following links in Schoology. That way you can access those video clips.